All right, welcome back to the weekly Rotoworld Fantasy Basketball Q&A session. I'm your host, as always, Noah Rubin, and today I have a very special guest with me, Adam King of Fantasy Basketball International. Is going to be joining me fairly often, fairly regularly moving forward, so that way you don't have to sit here for an hour and just listen to me talk over and over again. You get a nice, new, fresh perspective and just another tone of voice, which is very helpful to make it more exciting of an hour, and it should be a lot of fun. Before we get started, Adam, I know we're going to mention a few kind of recent news updates, and as questions start coming in, but I do want to give a special shout out because the Fantasy Sports Writers Association just released the nominees for their annual awards, and Rotoworld had a number of nominees across the sports, but I want to give a special shout out to our very own Zach Hanshoe, good friend of both of ours, got nominated for both Fantasy Basketball Writer of the Year and Player Notes Writer of the Year, which is just awesome to see. Just one of the best in the biz, and this is kind of proven just like a nice two-way player here, kind of gets the articles done, but also gets the player notes done. It's the great 3-and-D comp that we love to see, kind of makes an impact in multiple categories, not just a one-trick pony, but very cool. Shout out to Zach. And as we have some, I guess, questions flooding in, before we get to that, a little bit of news, Adam. Anthony Davis is sitting out the second night of a back-to-back tonight. After the game on Monday, he mentioned that his groin injury had flared up. He wasn't able to move quite the same way in the second half on both ends of the floor. Not surprising at all to see him sitting out, especially after he mentions an injury the night before, especially given his injury history. Now, it's been great this season. He hasn't missed much time at all. I think it's only been like 3 or 4. Like, this is going to be like his fourth absence or something ridiculous like that, when it hasn't been the case at all like that the past few years. But is there anybody that you're particularly interested in with Anthony Davis out against a, we'll call it a porous Hawks defense?
Not really. I mean, I don't think there's an obvious person. It's just their usual guys will do more. LeBron, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves. These guys will probably just do a little bit more. Jared Vanderbilt was pretty disappointing yesterday for anyone who picked him up, because he was ejected, I believe. So maybe he steps up. I don't know. I guess a Christian Wood against Atlanta, he could certainly try to do a bit more, and if he gets the minutes. So I don't think there's a clear Davis is out, grab this guy. It's maybe it's a Christian Wood, Rui Hachimura. Maybe they play him a little bit more and go small. It really just depends on whether they want to just replace him. I mean, someone's going to start at center, and I'm thinking it's Christian Wood or Jackson Hayes. Christian Wood would probably be the preference there, just because we know what he can do. But yeah, I don't think there's a clear ad for me.
Yeah, I was looking at it last night when it was kind of like, hey, he might not play tomorrow. The last time you missed a game, it's been a while, but the last time that happened, Jackson Hayes got the start, saw about a little less than 20 minutes, and Christian Wood came off the bench but played 30 minutes. Yeah. So neither is going to be a great option, but I think if we're looking at the way the minutes looked last time, Christian Wood may be the better play, but either way, not anything super exciting. LeBron is also questionable for that, so the Lakers could be very, very shorthanded. Could have guys like D'Angelo Russell stay hot, Austin Reeves have a big game just because he has the ball in his hands a little bit more. Another bit of big injury news is that Darius Garland is questionable to return on Wednesday. The last time he played was December 14th, so it's been a month and a half. Mm-hmm. When Cleveland's fully healthy, we know that there's 4 guys that are going to be able to provide really, really good fantasy value. It's Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, who just returned on Monday, kind of still on a minutes restriction. Is there anybody else in Cleveland? I mean, assuming Max Strus is going to continue to be that 5th starter, but is there anybody else that can provide standard league value outside of their top 4?
I don't think so. I mean, Strus obviously was red hot to start the season and was on a roster in most leagues and has since cooled off and been dropped. So I don't know. Look, maybe the fact that they haven't been healthy has impacted him negatively, which you would think would be the opposite. But potentially defenses are focused in on those four big players, you said, leaving Strus as the fifth option and getting a lot of good looks at the basket. So maybe if you've got Strus, don't just go, oh, all these guys are back, I'm going to drop him, because he was actually better to start the season. So maybe we hold him, possibly LeVert, but I mean, LeVert hasn't even really been that good with guys out. So, I don't really see anyone other than maybe Max Strus.
Yeah, and I guess that'll officially bring us to the end of Sam Merrill's season.
Yes.
When Garland is back in the lineup. It was a fun ride indeed, but sorry, Sam Merrill is probably not going to be a guy that you keep around when they're healthy. One question that we got on Twitter before we get into the ones we have here: would you trade Miles Turner and Emmanuel Quickley for Franz Wagner and Austin Reeves? He has Karl-Anthony Towns, Derek Lively, and Nick Richards, so a lot of center depth. Maybe makes it a little easier to move on from Miles Turner and Emmanuel Quickley. Well, not that it makes it directly easier to move on from Quickley, but that would be the trade to get Franz Wagner and Austin Reeves. Is that something you would consider doing? Does the build there kind of make that an easier deal for you to make?
Look, yeah, I mean, look, the build certainly helps. I think I still prefer the Turner side. Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, Turner himself has been pretty average the last little bit. So, I'd sort of have Turner, Quickley, and Franz in the same range, probably sort of top 40 through to 60 in that bucket there, whereas Reeves is more of a top 90 player. So just based on that alone, I think I'd rather have Turner and Quickley. So if you're giving up Turner, the person you're trading to probably wants blocks. So maybe you could just ask for a little bit more than Reeves. If you could get another top 50, top 60 player back instead, I'd probably consider. I mean, I still think this is an okay trade. I don't think it's one that you're going to look at and regret at the end of the season, especially if you don't need blocks. You won't even miss Miles Turner. So I wouldn't say don't do the trade. I would just say maybe try and get a little bit more, especially if you can wait until Turner actually has a good game, and Quickley, who was out yesterday, I think, from memory.
I think he's out again for the next game. Yeah.
So you're probably selling a little bit low on both of those guys at the moment. So, maybe you could wait a little bit. But as I said, if you want to do it, I would just do it. You've got some center depth there already.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is Miles Turner is probably the best fantasy asset in that trade, even though Franz Wagner's been close. I guess that kind of just depends on the categories, but I value Quickley over Austin Reeves. And I don't know why it seems like I have it out for Austin Reeves. It feels like I have it out for Austin Reeves, but I don't. I just don't think that he's as good in fantasy as he is in real life. I think he's an excellent real life player. I don't think that the numbers necessarily translate to elite fantasy value. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit lower on him. And I don't know that he's enough for me to give up Franz just to get, or I guess that would be getting back Franz, and Austin Reeves is enough for me to give up Quickley and Miles Turner, even though having plenty of center depth definitely evens that out a little bit. But we'll go ahead and get into some of the questions that we have here. The first one here comes from Cow Chad. Has Jalen Green finally cracked the next level? This could be a doozy of a question here, Adam. I know Jalen Green has played well. I think the last 2 games he's had, or maybe it's just the last one. No, it's the last. Okay, so the last 4 games. Yeah. We have last game, 33 points, 12 boards, and 7 assists, as well as a steal, 4 threes. Game before that, 19 points, 10 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and 4 threes. Game before that, 36 points, 9 rebounds. Game before that, 29 points. He's been playing really well. And actually, if you look at it during that stretch, because it's over the past week, Basketball Monster makes it really easy to see that. They have him 9th. He has been on a heater. A part of that is obviously the big numbers, but also shooting 50% from the floor when he shot 41% this season, and 92% from the free throw line when he shot 81% this season. Now, I don't think anybody would sit here and tell you, hey, Jalen Green, top 10 player in fantasy basketball. Like that's obviously not what we're saying here. He's just been playing really well. But has he cracked the next level? Has he finally arrived? Or is this just like hey, he's a very talented player. It's just hasn't been consistent enough for it to matter in fantasy basketball. This is a hot stretch, but let's see him do it for a few weeks before we say, oh, he's here.
Yeah, I'd like to see it a little bit more before saying that this is who he is now. He has been really good the past week. 3 of those games were without Jabari Smith, so the rebound numbers were up a little bit more. Smith was obviously back yesterday, and he still managed to get 12 rebounds. So, yeah, look, I think it's obviously a hot stretch. If you could sell him, I'd certainly view this as a pretty good sell high opportunity. If you could get any top 70 player back for him. Fred VanVleet, I think, had I don't know what he ended up with yesterday, but I know at one point
he 3 points and 14 assists, something like that.
Yeah, so he basically wasn't trying to score at all. So, yeah, I mean, there have been reasons for this, and there usually is with any player that goes on a hot streak. But I don't know. Yeah, if you want to try and sell him, but if not, like I just think his offensive upside is there. So if no one's going to bite on a top 70 player, I'd just hold him and let's see what he can do. Maybe he can continue this. Yeah, he was pretty ordinary to start the season, but the scoring we know is going to be there. But let's see what happens in those peripheral categories before we make judgment on whether he's cracked that next level, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. If you're able to truly sell high, go for it. If it's nobody wants to bite, then ride the hot streak. Let's see if he can keep this going. Maybe he will. Like, what if he does? Like, what if? Like, I don't think he will, but what if he's a top 10 player in fantasy basketball for the rest of the season? That would be wild. I don't think it will, but it'd be cool. Next one. Hey, guys, should I trade Walker Kessler and Anthony Edwards? I'm assuming that's Anthony Edwards, though I know Anthony Simons can be called Ant. For Tyrese Halliburton, 10-team, 9-cat, head-to-head punt free throw percentage build.
Yeah, I mean, Hallie is obviously the best player there. I don't know. Start of the season, I would have been hesitant just because I think we were all reasonably high on Walker Kessler, but he's been disappointing to say the least. Yeah, look, I think, and what was it, a 10-team league? Is that what it? 10-team, yeah. So okay, so your top end talent gets even more value. Sorry, no, it's less value in a shallower league. I don't know. I think I'd probably consider that. Kessler, really, his value is blocks. That's it. He's not doing anything other than that. Anthony Edwards has been good, but he's been a bit up and down. So yeah, I think Hallie is sort of pretty clearly the best player there. He's a top 5 player. So yeah, I think I'd do that.
Yeah, I think value-wise makes sense even without hearing the punt free throw percent build. Like, I think totally makes sense. I think I would do that. Walker Kessler's enough, or I guess like the right amount of what you have to add to Anthony Edwards to get Tyrese Halliburton, in my opinion. The punt free throw percentage idea makes it kind of interesting because Anthony Edwards has been a good free throw shooter this year, and so is Tyrese Halliburton. Free throws were a little lower in the past for Anthony Edwards, but that hasn't been an issue. Obviously, getting rid of Walker Kessler, unless there's other players on the team that have bad free throw percentages, not necessarily something to stick with. But if it's, I guess you're not like trying to lose free throw percentage, you're just trying to focus on other categories. So maybe it's not as big of a deal, but I think that Walker Kessler, since he is a bad free throw shooter on his like attempt every other game or whatever stupid low free throw rate is, just because he doesn't shoot many of them. Let me actually see. He's averaging 1.6 attempts per game this season. So
yeah,
doesn't
and he's
impact
only,
you that
I mean,
much.
Kessler's played fewer than 20 minutes in 3 straight games now. And Utah are playing well. So this isn't sort of something where we go, this could change because they're going to tank. Like, they're competitive. So whatever they're doing, they're going to keep doing. And I think, like I said, unless if you're not desperate for the blocks, then then this would be okay. And you're obviously going to free up a roster spot here by getting rid of 2 for 1. And in a 10-team league, your waiver wire should be pretty good. There should be a fairly healthy waiver wire if you've got standard kind of rosters. Whereas obviously in a deeper league, you're sort of trading away 2 must roster players for 1, and then you're going to be streaming in scrubs.
Yep. All right. Next one. From Superman himself, need to activate Jakob Poeltl and Cade Cunningham. Drop 2 between, I don't know if this is Jarris or Jabari Walker, Scoot Henderson, John Collins, Kevin Huerter, Max Strus, and Denny Avdia. 12-team, 9-cat, head-to-head. Adam, which 2 do you think you would be dropping in this case?
I don't think it'd be Denny. Not John Collins. He's been playing pretty well the last little bit. Don't have his numbers up in front of me, but I feel like, and I don't have him on any rosters, but I know you pull his numbers up there. I think he's been decent the last couple of weeks.
He has.
So not John Collins. Probably depends a little bit on where you are in the standings, because Scoot is probably a drop, although he was good yesterday, and I think he has upside for later in the season. So if you can afford to hold on to him, I probably would. I don't know. It might be Jabari Walker, but yeah, again, I think they're gonna prioritize him, and they already are a little bit. Huerter, I streamed him in last week, and I've just held him because he's been much better the last few games. So I don't think there's clear drops here, but it wouldn't be Denny, it wouldn't be John Collins. I'd be holding Scoot if I could. So it'd be Jabari Walker or Max Strus, maybe, after we just said don't drop Strus. But yeah, look, I mean, wait and see. I don't know whether this is ESPN or Fantrax or Yahoo and what the rules are around your IR spots. But as with any player coming back off long-term injuries, like Cade, we've seen him in and out. He's already played and then missed time. And so have a look at their schedule, because it might be that you can just leave these guys in your IR spot for another few days and then someone else gets injured and you can swap one in. But if you really wanted to get them activated, it'd probably be Jabari Walker, Max Strus, maybe Scoot or Kevin Huerter.
Yeah, I think I'm on pretty similar wavelength as far as like the definitely not dropping John Collins. He's Basketball Monster has him 44th over the last 2 weeks. He had a couple of 20-point double-doubles, playing well. Not dropping Denny. Scoot is interesting because I think I would absolutely hold on to him if I had the luxury to keep him around. Do you know? So he scored 22 points yesterday. Do you know how many he scored in the first 3 quarters?
No, I didn't watch the Portland game.
2.
Yeah,
he had 20 in the fourth quarter. And if I'm not mistaken, I was trying to pull that up. Were they up? The game was basically over by the time the fourth quarter started. I think they were up about 16, 17 points at the start of the fourth quarter, ended up winning by 26. But basically when the game was out of reach, Scoot went off. And now it's great to see, but it's not like he had 22. And granted, also the 76ers were without Maxey and Embiid. So it was cool to see, but it kind of came in garbage time. So it's not as moving for me. So if I'm, struggling to make the playoffs, like right around the edge there, probably dropping Scoot and picking up somebody that's going to make more of an impact now. If I'm kind of firmly, hey, like 1 or 2 seed, then I'm fine keeping Scoot around. He's going to make the playoffs anyway. And I'm assuming after the trade deadline, when Portland kind of says, hey, we're going to move on from a couple guys and some guys are going to get hurt and we're not going to play them the rest of the season, then it's going to be Scoot's time to shine. So I think if I had to just choose 2, and like you said, it's a tough cut, but Walker and then probably Strus, I think, over Huerter, but not great either way.
Yeah. Scoot, I think we're viewing him as more of a stash who will give you
definitely
sort of sporadic value over the next month, as we saw yesterday. And I know because I'm against him in industry pickup, I think. So, yeah, it's hold him if you can. If you can't, drop him and activate one of those guys.
Yep. All right, next one. This looks like a very interesting dynasty question. This league is calling this trade super lopsided, but I don't think so. It's a 6-team, not 16, 6-team points dynasty league. Cade Cunningham, Amen Thompson, and Onyeka Okongwu for Donovan Mitchell, Jaren Jackson Jr., and pick 6 in this upcoming draft class. And if we knew anything about how this draft was going to go, I could kind of give you the idea of who that might be, but we have no idea who that is going to be because this draft is all over the place. Seems like giving up 3 young studs for 2 win now players and the 6th pick in what is considered a pretty weak draft class. So, Adam, do you think that this is very lopsided, or do you think that this one's fine?
Points. I'm not in a lot of points leagues. I don't think I'm in any actually. Yeah. I would have, and this is just basing this on category. I think Cade and Donovan are probably comparable in a points league, I would say. Donovan obviously gets you a lot more points, some assists, but Cade is sort of a guy that'll get you points, assists, rebounds as well. And then JJJ, not as good in a points league, but he is probably going to be better in a points league rest of season because he's doing more scoring and less focus on that defensive end. So he's better than a Okongwu, better than Amen Thompson at the moment, but Amen Thompson could be a beast in a couple of years if this is done. Yeah, look, I mean, to me, this doesn't jump out as being super lopsided. I think you could certainly make a case that whoever's getting Donovan Mitchell and Jaren Jackson is getting arguably the 2 best players. I think Cade Cunningham would make a case there, but as you said, the draft next year, I don't do a lot in that space, but I do know that backing up what you said there, that next year's draft is not looking super strong. There's no clear top 2 or top 3 or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is fine. I don't think it's one where people will go, there's some collaboration here between teams or someone is just throwing in the towel. I think it's fine.
Yeah, just based off my dynasty rankings, which are more for category leagues than points leagues, but I have Cade at 13, Donovan Mitchell at 17, and Jaren Jackson at 22. I think that Jaren Jackson loses value in a points league, whereas Donovan Mitchell may be a little stronger and Cade's probably fairly similar. And then I have Amen Thompson at 48, and I know a lot of other analysts have him higher than that.
Yep.
I have a Okongwu at 59, and I think that pick 6 in this next draft would probably just end up being lower and potentially significantly lower. So to me, it's not lopsided because I don't know what side it would be lopsided for. Like if it was kind of saying, hey, my league's saying that this side is getting way too much, then I could have more of a perspective. But the fact that that isn't said, and I have no idea which one is considered, like it's considered lopsided for. I think it's a win now move for the team getting Donovan Mitchell and a build for the future move for the team getting Cade. But I think that one's totally fine.
Yeah, in a dynasty, as you said, I think Cade, Amen, Onyeka, they're all young. Amen Thompson has flashed already how good he can be. Okongwu, we're just waiting. We're still waiting. We seem to have been waiting forever. But, I think the team giving up Cade, Amen, and Onyeka is looking to win now. Donovan Mitchell and Jaren Jackson will help with that. The pick is just to sort of sweeten the deal, I suppose. No, I think it's fair.
Yeah. All right. Is Miles McBride playing at a high enough per minute level to gain a meaningful role after the All-Star break? That's the Knicks, I guess, kind of he'd be the backup point guard now. Recently, let's look at that. Last 4 games, playing 14.6 minutes per game, averaging 10.3 points, 2.5 threes, 0.8 boards and assists, 0.8 steals. Nothing much going there, but plenty of points and plenty of threes. I don't even know if this would be a standard league question, maybe a deeper league question. or maybe just like a hey, let's go Knicks. Is Miles McBride going to provide value for a team that's looking to make some noise in the East? How do you kind of view McBride, Adam?
I think he's a good player. I view him as someone that probably should be playing decent minutes, but isn't currently. Yesterday, I guess we got a good look at what the Knicks are going to look like without Randall for the next few weeks. And he only played 15 minutes. He did have 11 points with 3 threes and a steal in that time. So, yeah, I mean, look, his per minute numbers have been okay. I just don't think his role is big enough yet based on what we've seen. If he'd come out yesterday and played 25 minutes, then I would say potentially. But they didn't have Anunoby yesterday, so I don't know if he's back today. I think
he's questionable.
Questionable. So, we'll wait and see. Look, maybe if they make some moves, maybe. So if you've got him, if you're holding him in a deeper league, I'd probably just hold because we're only a week away from the trade deadline, a bit over a week. So maybe if they do make some moves, but I'm not sure they're a team that's going to make a lot of moves. I don't think so, but he has, like I said, I do like him as a player, and I think there's a case that they should be playing him over Quentin Grimes, but at the moment it looks like Grimes is the preferred option there.
All right, next one we have, hold on. Okay, so this is also from Cowchad, and I'm going to pull up this tweet that he's referencing because I did see it and I was blurbing, so I didn't get a chance to reply to it. So pulled that Twitter trade because of Jalen Green, countered with Grady, AJ Green, Jalen Suggs, Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes, and 3 firsts for Paul George and Tyus Jones. Oh, man, that's quite a package for Paul George. And Tyus Jones is also playing really well. Let me see. If you're getting all of the young players in the 3 firsts, then I like it. If you're getting Paul George, I don't know how I feel about it. Okay, the tweet also said with plans to flip Paul George and Tyus Jones for other Jalen Green / Jalen Suggs level guys and 2025 firsts. So if you're able to, I guess, kind of turn those players into Paul George and Tyus Jones and then back into those level of players and then getting some of the picks back. I don't know. It seems like a complex deal to me. But if you're able to flip it all and make it work, then sweet. Just to me, that seems like a lot to give up for Paul George, who's playing really well, but is kind of like an aging veteran. And Tyus Jones, who I don't think he's a really good fantasy point guard. I don't think he's the Wizards' point guard of the future or any other team's point guard of the future, which I think kind of impacts that a little bit. And sorry, just a follow-up post here. Jalen Green's a deal breaker, so have to pull the trigger on the Twitter trade, which was Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, Grady, AJ Griffin, and a 2024 first for Paul George, Tyus Jones, and Duncan Robinson. So a lot of moving pieces in that one. I don't even know. Adam, how would you kind of evaluate? I'll pull this back up. So it's this, but the difference is instead of Ivy, Killian Hayes, 2020, and then 2 firsts, it's Jalen Green. Personally, I think I would rather give up Jalen Green than give up Ivy, Killian, and 2 firsts. What do you think?
Yeah, Killian's, I don't know, he's interesting. Like we've seen little flashes from him, but I'm just not sure he ever takes that next step to be a consistent sort of prominent guard in the NBA. Ivy, I think, has looked pretty good. 2 firsts. I mean, God, I don't even know the 24 draft, 26, 27. I'd have no idea. I know the 25 draft is the one. That's the Cooper Flag draft, I think, and I think he's looking a little bit stronger. So I guess that's why you're trying to get back a 25 first round pick. Tyus, I mean, he's been good this season, but I think this is just a situation where he's their only option. He's playing big minutes, but long term, I don't see him as a top 50 player or anything. He'll settle into a backup role somewhere. Paul George has been pretty good this year, but he is dealing with a groin injury that they're persisting with playing him through for some reason. I don't know why. Just rest him. It's not like they're struggling and they need to win. They're playing well. They've got depth. Just rest him because, I mean, how many times have we seen Tyrese Halliburton, good example. He came back and missed another week and a bit. Paul George is certainly not a picture of health over the last few years.
Yeah, it's the Clippers. Like it's not another, I don't know, just like a random team. It's the Clippers who have had like 5 of their last 6 seasons derailed by injury. Like, why would you not just be careful here?
Yeah, I don't know why they're pushing it with any groin, calf, hamstring. Anyway, so yeah, look, it's a lot of moving pieces. And if the plan is to get PG and Tyus and then move them on to get some other young pieces and a 25 first round pick, then I think that's probably fair. Otherwise, you're getting rid of a lot of your future there to get 2 guys that could be good this year, but beyond this year, PG's only getting older, and Tyus, as I said, I don't think he's going to be a starter for the rest of his career or anything like that.
Right. And just one more Paul George rant. He played 56 games last year. He's played 43 already this year. Like, the expectation was, hey, if you're drafting Paul George, you're probably going to get 55 to 60 games out of him if you're lucky. He's played 43 already. Like, they need to be just so cautious because they've been playing really, really well and will have a very legit chance to win it all this year. But having him play through it is just playing with fire to me. But we don't have to continue to go off on injury rants because there will be more of those. Don't worry. The injury rants will be coming. This one here, thoughts on pairing Ben Simmons with Luka, LeBron, Tyrese Halliburton, Scottie Barnes, Kawhi, Brooke Lopez, Jakob Poeltl, Tyus Jones. I'm assuming that's Jalen Johnson and Yusuf Nurkic. Or should I trade Ben Simmons for one of DeAndre Ayton, Austin Reeves, or Keegan Murray? 9-cat head-to-head league. So I guess I don't know exactly what the build would be with this squad. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's a little bit of a punt free throw build between Luka, LeBron, Scottie, and Jakob Poeltl. So that would fit well with Ben Simmons. Wouldn't fit great with Reeves. I think would you rather, I guess just in a vacuum, have Ayton or Keegan Murray? I think those are probably the 2 I'd be deciding between who I'd want the most of. Ben Simmons was awesome in his first game back.
Yeah.
Do we have faith that that's the Ben Simmons we're like that would be awesome. Like, great comeback story. Would love to see it after, I guess, like years of it kind of being bad, like injuries and other issues. Like, would love to see him come back and just play at the same level he was when he was with the 76ers. Is that like the expectation? No, I think like this is a great sell high here, but who would you be looking to pair with this squad?
As you said, I mean, first reaction is this is probably a bit of a punt free throw team with Poeltl, LeBron, Luka, even Nurkic to some degree. He's pretty inconsistent from the line. There's so many players here, just trying to look at what your strengths and weaknesses are. As you said, in a vacuum, who would you prefer? Simmons, Ayton, Reeves, Keegan? Oh, look, I think if healthy and playing well, it potentially is Simmons because he can be a top 50 player if he's healthy. And we saw what he can do yesterday. So if he was healthy, I'd probably stick with Simmons, but I wouldn't go Ayton just because I don't want him anywhere. Reeves, look, he's fine. He's probably top 80, top 90. Keegan Murray has been better this year, but he's still relying a lot on points. So when he shoots the ball well, he plays well, and everyone talks about how good he is. But then when he misses, when he's not hitting his shots, he doesn't do a lot to back that up. But he has been better. What is he? Top 60. Look, for me, it's probably Keegan or Reeves. I just think they're probably the safest. but probably don't quite have that upside of Ben Simmons.
Yeah, based on like just the amount of faith I have in Ben Simmons, I think I would be definitely selling high here, and Keegan Murray is probably the guy I would go for.
Yeah.
Also kind of fits with not a great free throw shooter, but when he's on, he can give you really good threes. Like you said, doesn't give you a ton in other categories, but 1.2 steals is very reasonable and very important. So, yeah. Overall, though, this has to be like some sort of dynasty league, I would think, if you have Luka, Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, it's either that or like I don't want to say it's a 14 league. Maybe it's a couple trades were made to get one of Luka or Tyrese Halliburton. I think that would make sense. And then getting like LeBron and Kawhi in rounds 2 and 3, Scottie Barnes in round 4. Okay, I can see a little bit of the path there. Getting Jalen Johnson in the late rounds. How you swung a trade to get the other one between Luka and Tyrese Halliburton is, I don't know. It's great managing right there. But
yeah.
And this is also from him. Do you remember me asking on draft day about pairing Ben Simmons and Draymond with Luka, Ant, LeBron, and Kawhi? And looks like he did most of that, so that's pretty impressive. Like the only ones not on that were Ant and Draymond, but he replaced Anthony Edwards and Draymond Green with Tyrese Halliburton and Scottie Barnes and Jalen Johnson. So it worked out okay. Thoughts on Tyus Jones and Yusuf Nurkic rest of the season? Should I try to trade or hold? 10-team, 9-cat, head-to-head, punt, free throw percentage build. Okay, so assuming this is the same league, it is 10 teams, which makes a little bit more sense. And a punt free throw percentage build, like we said. So that adds up. Quick thought is holding Tyus Jones and Nurkic. I mean, like not dropping, but I think if there's a trade that I could make, then I would definitely be open to moving him because he has been – the Basketball Monster has him 83rd this season. If I could get somebody similar value to that, I would definitely be looking to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's Nurk. I know too much about Nurk. He's on one of my big teams and has been pretty bad the last few weeks. I think if you were trying to trade Nurkic, I wouldn't be doing it now because he's had a little thumb injury. He's had some foul trouble. He just hasn't been playing well like he was to start the season. So I think you'd be selling him pretty low. Tyus Jones, I don't know. It's hard. Like I think he could be top 50, top 60 rest of season, but that's assuming Washington don't make any moves. And I think they probably will make some moves. I don't know whether that involves Tyus Jones or not. I don't think either of them are drops even in a 10-team league. Tyus Jones definitely not. Nurkic, no, probably not. Would I trade? I don't know. If you could trade Tyus and get a top 50, top 60 player back, then maybe consider that. Nurkic, I'd certainly consider trading him. I just don't think I'd be doing it right now.
Yeah, and looking at it, both of them are poor free throw shooters too. I fully expected to pull up Tyus Jones and tell you he had a really good free throw percentage, but 74% this year. Last year he was 80, year before that 82, year before that 91. But he also never shoots them. He's averaging 0.7 free throw attempts per game this year, which is, I don't know, that has to be, I mean, I don't have the numbers up, but among players playing at least 25 minutes per game, that has to be the lowest, right? Like less than a free throw attempt per game, especially for somebody that has the ball in his hands, like averaging 6.3 assists, like taking 10.4 shots and less than one free throw. It's just very surprising. You'd think I guess they're not winning many games, so they're not really getting fouled at the end of games. So I was going to say at least late game free throws, but
I was going to say I think part of this is a Washington thing.
Yeah,
it's just that
that's
teams
fair.
Couldn't be bothered fouling them.
They had their first 2-game winning streak, which was kind of cool. They hadn't had a 2-game winning streak before the last 2 games, and the wins were against the Spurs and Pistons. I thought that was really funny. All right, next one. Would you trade DeMar DeRozan and Jeremy Grant for Derek White, Tobias Harris, and Jordan Poole? Is that a deal you're looking to make?
So if it's 2 for 3, Derek White. Yeah, I think I would. You're probably buying low on Derek White at the moment. He's been pretty bad. Tobias Harris, it was pretty ordinary yesterday. He was coming off injury. The Sixers were just bad, so he didn't play big minutes. Jordan Poole is looking better. I'm still not going to say he's back or anything like that, but he has looked a little bit better since they got their new coach. Jeremy Grant, that's the name there that jumps out to me as someone that I don't really want on my roster once we hit sort of late February, March. So for the fantasy playoffs, I'm just not sure what his role is going to be. And DeRozan, like, he's fine, but yeah, I think I'd rather Derek White over DeRozan. So I think I'd do that.
I agree with a lot of your logic as well. I think Jeremy Grant's definitely a shutdown candidate, which kind of scares me. I think Derek White's better than DeMar DeRozan, or at least has been so far this season. And getting the third player in Jordan Poole, who has been the most disappointing fantasy player this season, I would say that pretty confidently. Like, there may be other very disappointing players, but I don't think anybody's quite as disappointing as Jordan Poole. Maybe the last half of the season, he picks it up. Like, hey, they were never in the playoff picture, but now that they're really out of the playoff picture, and they've made some trades at the deadline, like, does that open things up for Jordan Poole? It's like, I could see a scenario where Jordan Poole plays better. Like, I'm not banking on it, but he's the third player in a 3-for-2 trade. Like, it's an upside swing. If it doesn't work, then drop him. Then it's fine. I would still do Derek White and Tobias Harris for DeMar and Jeremy Grant, I think. Though I think Jordan Poole does kind of even that out.
Yeah. And I think with Poole, he's obviously, he can't play any worse. And he's 170th for the season.
Yeah.
If we've all sort of lowered out the bar in terms of our expectations. So if you but I think his upside, it's unlikely you're going to get anyone off the waivers with his upside. If you're just looking for some points, some threes, some assists, with zero expectation, then I think Poole certainly makes that. He sweetens the deal. Even if Poole wasn't there, I'd probably still do the trade.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to feel like I'm discrediting Jeremy Grant, because I think he is a good fantasy player, even if he's been a little bit, I guess, down this season. I expected him to be much better this season with Damian Lillard gone, but the numbers have actually been a little bit down. But I think it's the shutdown candidate that really kind of changes that for me.
Yeah.
Next one is drop Jalen Suggs, Kevin Huerter, and Max Strus. I think this kind of goes back to the one that we talked about earlier. Which one of those three? I would say that neither of us is probably going to drop Jalen Suggs, but I guess between Huerter and Strus, which one are you dropping?
Suggs. I don't want to drop Suggs, but he has been pretty ordinary the last little bit. He certainly cooled off after a hot start, and they're sort of starting to get their guys back now. I'm just pulling up his numbers here. When it loads up. So where are we? So barely inside the top 200 over the last month. Steals have fallen off a little bit. Points are sort of what you expect. Hasn't scored more than 20 points in 3 weeks. I don't know. I still think I'd be holding him. It's probably Strus, maybe. Huerter. Maybe I'm overvaluing Huerter because I streamed him in and then I haven't dropped him. But I feel like he's been good. Where are we? Kevin Huerter. Yeah, top 20 over the last 2 weeks. Top 90 over the last month. He seems to have taken that role away from Malik Monk. So he's playing big minutes. Malik Monk has fallen away. So it's, potentially Strus here, just because I think Suggs and Huerter probably have higher upside.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it would be Strus. I think, especially now that as they're getting healthier, he's still going to be important, but just the upside is limited by having more scoring options and more players that need the ball. Huerter's been inconsistent this year, so I think I would hold Jalen Suggs above the other two, just because I think him over the course of the season providing value with threes and steals is more valuable than the other two guys who pretty much only kind of give you threes. So I think that kind of gives Suggs the edge, the slight edge for me in this case here.
Yeah.
All right, who should I target to get back for Luka? He's playing too many minutes in the 2-game week, and the second week of the playoffs is brutal. I also got LeBron playing 2 games in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. Yes, both of those things are noteworthy, especially if your team is one that's going to be in the fantasy playoffs and looking to make a run. But man, who do you trade? SGA, Joel Embiid, Jokic? Like it has to be like one of those guys. And I don't think the managers that have them are not going to trade them. So does that actually work out? Like, is there a trade that works out where you give up Luka and it makes sense?
It's a tough one. As you said, I don't think you're going to get those top 5 like Embiid, Jokic, SGA,
right.
Tyrese, maybe a Donovan Mitchell. I don't know. They're sort of in terms of rank, they're comparable, and Mitchell just he's not required to do as much. So I think he doesn't have that upside. Like he's not going to do what Luka has been doing, but he's probably a little bit safer, slightly. But otherwise, I guess you're probably looking at a 2-for-1 or something like that. But I mean, you'd be viewing Luka as a top 10 player. So you'd be looking to get top 10 value back. And Donovan Mitchell is just someone that jumps out. I mean, you've got Kyrie Irving, but I wouldn't touch Kyrie Irving with all his injury stuff.
The same schedule issues as well.
Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah, they're on the same team. Maybe a Devin Booker. But if you were getting Booker back, I'd be trying to get someone else with Devin Booker. So maybe it's Devin Booker and like a top 80 player or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the only thing that makes sense. Like, I don't think you're doing a 1-for-1 trade there. I think it's got to be something that's a comparable player and something else to kind of make it even. Yeah. Back to, I think we briefly kind of chose earlier 3 offers on the table for Ben Simmons, punting free throw percentage. I think you were on the we agreed on Keegan Murray for this one, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be Keegan, Reeves, Ayton, but that's part of that is just my bias against DeAndre Ayton because I just don't. I do think he can be a good fantasy player. I don't know. I just don't really think his attitude.
No, he's a max player, Adam.
He's great.
He's proven that he is a max player.
Dominating. So that's more me, probably a personal choice because I think you could make a case that Ayton is probably the best player in this bunch. It's just me having seen what he's done this year and wondering whether this is I mean, I flagged this before the season even started that I was worried about Ayton and the fact that when he was with Phoenix and they were bad, he just didn't seem engaged and didn't want to play, and he now plays in Portland on a team where they're also bad, and we've seen him miss. I mean, he missed a game because of snow or ice or whatever. So, I know that's probably a valid reason, but it's probably Keegan for me. I think would be the preference, but I think you could make a case to get all 3 of these guys.
Yeah. All right. This was just a follow-up actually from the one that we talked about a little bit ago. It's a points league. So DeMar DeRozan, Jeremy Grant for Derek White, Tobias Harris, and Jordan Poole, I think actually may alter that a little bit for me.
It's closer.
Just because Derek White, I feel like is awesome for category leagues, points leagues. I mean, he's 32 in category leagues. He's not 32 in points leagues because a lot of it is, the defensive value, which just doesn't quite, I guess, work out or isn't quite as valuable in points leagues. I don't know. Would you still do that trade?
It's certainly closer. But Jordan Poole is a lot better in points leagues. So on the flip side to Derek White, who is better in category leagues, I think Jordan Poole is far better in points leagues. So, and I mean, it doesn't change the fact that Jeremy Grant could be someone that's shelved down the stretch. So that it doesn't matter what format it is for that. So I think I'd probably still do it, but it's definitely closer in a points league.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, same one. Should I trade Scottie Barnes? Will he keep up the production, or will he even improve? I don't think I would trade Scottie Barnes. I think that he will be able to keep up the production, but the production from the last 2 months has been top 30, not top, not top 20. But I still think that he's going to be elite in fantasy basketball the rest of the season. He's not he was a first rounder there for a while. He's not playing quite that well anymore, but I don't see him dropping off and being around top 75.
No. I mean, look, trade him if you can get a top 20 player back. I'd maybe consider that, but I think he probably settles towards the back end of the second round there. So he's probably 25th, somewhere in there. So if you wanted to trade him and you could get a top 15 player back or a top 20, would I take Tyrese Maxey for him? Maybe. I'm just looking at rankings and stuff here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a few names there I'd consider, but yeah, as you said, I don't see him falling off to be top 50, top 60. I think he'll hover around that range, and especially now with Siakam gone, I think this is his team. So
yeah,
they're just going to let him run with it, and he'll have some bad games certainly, but I think the upside will stick, and yeah, he should be solid, sort of top 20, top 25 rest of the season.
Yeah. All right, playing in a 4-keeper league, do I try and trade Curry for younger guys with upside? I think this is a pretty straightforward answer. It's if you can win the championship and you need Curry to do that, keep him. I wouldn't try and trade him. If you're able to trade him for 1 to 2 younger guys that you would definitely keep, then go for it, especially if you're not going to be able to win this year. Would rather have the guys that you can win moving forward. If you're not going to be able to get it this year, then try and use Curry for a pointless season. I think it's pretty straightforward. Better trade deadline stash: Asar Thompson, Amen Thompson, and Keontae George. I don't think that Utah or Houston is going to be tanking at any point. So does this, you may disagree, but does this leave Asar Thompson as the only guy that could potentially move into the starting lineup?
Yeah, I think it's probably Asar Thompson, but I mean, the way Detroit are handling him at the moment is just frustrating. So if this was any other team but Detroit, I'd say definitely Asar Thompson. If he was on Washington, if he was on San Antonio, any of these other bottom teams that are going to bottom out, Charlotte, Memphis maybe, I would certainly say Asar Thompson. Detroit they're a confusing organization, so I'm just not convinced that they will use him. Hopefully common sense prevails and they do. At the moment, as you said, I think Houston and Utah are probably going to continue to push. So at the moment, it's probably Asar Thompson.
Yeah, I agree with that. This next one, going back to the same 10-team 9-cat head-to-head league, offered LaMelo, assuming LaMelo, not Lonzo, and Brandon Miller for LeBron, but declined in the punt free throw percentage build. Would you have done LaMelo and Brandon Miller for LeBron, considering it's a punt free throw percentage build, considering, I guess, the shutdown candidacy for LaMelo, probably not Brandon Miller, the injuries for LaMelo and not for LeBron this year? Sorry, I'm trying to make the case for potentially keeping LeBron, because I think in a vacuum, LaMelo and Brandon Miller are more valuable than LeBron, but I think this is actually more of a kind of even trade than I originally thought when I looked at it.
Yeah, my initial reaction is no, but I'm very high on LaMelo. But I do get it. He's out. He's been out again with ankle stuff, and the Hornets suck. So yeah, who knows what they're going to do with him? Brandon Miller has looked pretty good recently. So he's actually, I wasn't that high on him this year, but he's surprised me. LeBron, look, I mean, I don't know. I tend to avoid LeBron just because of the constant questionable. I know he doesn't miss a lot of time typically, but he has started missing the odd game or two. So I think, look, I can see why you would decline it, given LaMelo Ball and the season, well, the couple of seasons that he's had. So I think it's fine to decline it. I do think LaMelo is the best player there from a fantasy perspective when healthy. But it's if you're worried about that ankle, which I try not to be, but even I'm a little bit concerned. It doesn't seem to be going away.
Yeah, I think I agree with I understand why you declined it. And honestly, if your team is doing really well and you have LeBron, then I don't know, sometimes for me, I'm like, I know that if I trade, this player that's been playing well for me to try and get better, it's just not going to work out for some reason. There's no math behind that. There's no actual fantasy analysis behind that other than that's just the way it goes. And I don't know. So I understand not wanting to trade, but I think value-wise it does make more sense. But there are other factors that play into that. Yeah. Would you hold on to Scoot Henderson in a keeper league, head-to-head Roto or head-to-head and Roto, giving up a 4th-round pick for both leagues? Ooh, that is a little bit more of a difference. What do you think?
Yeah, it is a tough one. I think probably in 4 years, yes. Next year, you're giving up a 4th-round pick next year. Will Scoot be a 4th-round player next year? Oh, I don't know. I mean, he's been a bit disappointing this year. Hasn't sort of come out. Like we just touched on Brandon Miller. He's been far more impressive, I think, than Scoot Henderson. Obviously, Wemby, Chet have been amazing. I don't know. I think it's fine. I think I'd be okay with it. I'd prefer to be giving up probably a 6th-round pick. That would make me feel a little bit better than a 4th-round pick. And it probably depends as well on your roster. Like, are you a team that's going to compete next year? Because if your timeline is that you want to compete in 3 years, then yes, I probably would. If you're competing now, looking to compete next season, maybe not.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Because as of right now, unless, like you said, you're going to hold on to him with this 4th-round pick for years until the point where he's worth more than that, then I don't know. As of right now, I kind of want to say no, because he probably isn't going to be a guy that someone is drafting in the 4th round, because it might be a few years before he's giving that level of production based on what we've seen so far. Now, I am excited to see how he does the final 2 months, because there's a chance that he changes that narrative. And I think there's a good chance that he changes that narrative. And then it's he's definitely worth the 4th-round pick, could be worth more than that. So it's almost a bargain to keep him in the 4th round over the next few seasons, because we consistently see rookie point guards play significantly better the second half of the season. And my mind always goes back to this because I think it's a great example and makes me feel a little bit better about Scoot. Trae Young during his rookie season was not very good the first handful of months. Last 2 months was just as good. I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but on this, comparable to Luka Doncic, to the point where it's if he would have played that over the course of the season, it would have been a much tighter rookie of the year race. And I'd like to see that would be really great to see out of Scoot. Is final 2 months, him saying, "Hey, this is why I was taking number 2. I'm really good." And then it's 4th-round pick, definitely. But it's with what he's shown so far, I don't know as much. But is Tari Eason or Shaedon Sharpe a pickup for a free IL spot in category leagues? I would say Tari Eason over Sharpe. What do you think?
Yeah, probably. Although the Eason injury, we're not getting a lot of details out of Houston on what this is. It's week to week. It's it's quite a generic injury as well, so which concerns me a little bit. We don't actually know what the injury is. I think it's like lower leg or something like that. So, yeah, I think I'd prefer Eason here. If you've got a free IL spot, sure, grab one of them and see. But I'm not sure we have a definitive timeline for either player, do we? Eason, I know we.
No.
Well, I'm pretty sure we don't. Shaden Sharp,
not definitive from what I've seen. But I mean, I think for category leagues, like Eason is the much better player. I guess also the role would kind of impact that because Houston's going to be trying to fight for the play-in, and Eason's going to be coming off the bench, whereas Shaden Sharp's probably going to be starting for a really crappy team. Is he a shutdown candidate? That's very possible. Like, I think that there's a number of factors to consider. I want to say I'd rather use it on Eason, but what do you think?
Yeah, maybe. I think either you could throw in there, but I wouldn't prioritize them. So if one of your guys got injured, I'd be okay just dropping them to move someone into that IL spot.
All right, and we are at an hour. If you don't mind, Adam, we'll do one more quick question. We'll do a fun one. Alperen Sengun and Josh Giddey or Wemby? I guess rest of the season, who would you rather have?
Wemby.
Yeah, I think pretty easily for me. He's already, like, over the course of the season, almost up to first-round value. Josh Giddey has not been good at all. This is not a shot at Alperen Sengun. It's a shot at Josh Giddey. He is not good enough to make up the difference between Sengun and Wemby. So that's going to do it for this one. We reached an hour. I know that there were some questions that we weren't able to get to. Make sure you come back next week, and we will be here once again at 3 p.m. Eastern time to answer any of those questions that you may have. Adam, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you guys next week.